Hello everyone. Glad you could join us for today's show. Before I introduce our prestigious guest and business owner in Auburn, just want to share with you regarding the second book, Bo's Warriors. So I have some news regarding that. Tomorrow I'm scheduled to receive the edited version, which means there will only be minor corrections, and so that's great. And I also spoke to Bruce Madday, who's a sports information director at the University of Michigan, and he told me he submitted 42 pictures to the publisher, Triumph Books. So we should have a lot of pictures in the book, so I'm pleased about that. And not only that, I spoke with Coach Gary Moeller today about promotion and things like that. The reason I bring up Gary Moeller, Gary was brought to the University of Michigan by Bo Schembechler, and backstepping, Gary was a captain for Woody Hayes, and Bo was his position coach when Bo coached under Woody Hayes. And then Bo took him to the University of Michigan as a position coach. Well, on top of that, Gary became also a head coach at the University of Michigan. During his coaching career at the University of Michigan, Gary's son, Andy, played middle linebacker and was a co-captain. The other captain, co-captain on the offense, was Jim Harbaugh. Maybe some of you recognize Jim's name. He's the coach of the Niners. Well, incidentally, Andy is coaching for John's brother Jim with the Ravens. So I was talking to Gary about that and promotion and so forth. Gary also coached Desmond Howard, who was an All-American and who now is on ESPN College Game Days, one of the analysts. So we were talking about promotion and hyping up. Anyway, turning to today in the moment, we have, as you can see, the bikes in front of us. So that's a sign. And the person across from me is the owner of Victory Velo. And that information is on the screen. But we're going to talk about Dan. Thank you, Dan, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're just really pleased. Unfortunately, Tony's not here today. He had a pet emergency that came up, and so look for him next time. So Dan brought two of his bikes, but we're going to find out a little bit about Dan before we get into these particular bikes and some suggestions about entering the sport that he's been involved with for a long time.
A long time, going on 30 years.
Now he doesn't look that old, but
I am.
But
yeah.
but you are. Okay, so now as I recall, your father is a sports junkie.
Yeah, he was a very good athlete. You know, he played high school football, got a scholarship, played college football. Decided not to go. But he's always been into sports. Always been kind of a motivational person for me as far as activities and being athletic and being involved in sports. And
so we're going to blame your father.
He is to blame. Yeah, yeah.
He is in a positive.
In a positive way. I mean, I grew up in a big family, 6 kids. We all played sports. We're all active.
What ranking are you?
I'm the oldest boy. I got an older sister.
Okay, so as the second oldest, there's some prestige.
I guess, yeah.
Did you hear that? He said, I guess. There's some prestige in the ranking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's something, you know, your younger brothers look up to you, and they want to follow in your footsteps, and it was fun to see.
Prestige?
It is. It's great.
So now you acknowledge that there's some prestige.
And some of them were better athletes than me, so you know, it was good to see. So.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the oldest, which your sister's name is
Kathleen.
Kathleen, and what kind of athlete was she?
I mean, she still competes. Her new thing that she's been into recently is parachute jumping. So that's her latest craze. So she's been making a hobby of jumping out of airplanes. So.
And how long has Kathleen been doing that?
Oh gosh, maybe I guess within a year she's really gotten into it.
Oh, so it's more recent.
It's recent, yeah.
Okay. Well then, being the oldest girl, and she's athletic, right?
Yes.
Being the oldest boy, you're athletic.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the interaction between you and Kathleen early on.
You know, our dynamics were different. I mean, you know, we never competed in the same sports. I'd say it was probably more my younger brothers that I competed with.
We'll get to those later. But let's talk about Kathleen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think when we were growing up, I mean, you know, it's just like my kids nowadays. It's always a race to the food. It's always a race to whatever you're doing. There's always some sort of competition involved in it.
How much older is Kathleen than you?
3 years.
Okay, so she was bigger.
Of course.
Than you. And how did that affect the getting to the food first and so forth?
Well, it makes you faster. You decide that you have to compete, so it builds that competition early. But it was always friendly competition.
But there was competition.
Oh, always, yeah.
Always,
yeah.
Other than for food.
Yeah, I think so. And just in general day-to-day life, I mean, you know, when you're growing up in a family dynamic with a lot of kids, I mean, there's always some sort of competition going on.
Has to be.
It has to be. Yeah.
Has to be.
Yeah. And it's healthy.
Was she a favorite, being the first child?
I'd say I was a favorite. No, she was.
With your mom,
yeah.
You'd be the favorite.
Well, yeah. And
what about with your dad? Was she a favorite?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Did she get special privileges?
Looking back, I don't think so. I think they treated us all pretty fairly. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you were all treated pretty fairly.
Yeah.
There was no advantage that she had over you other than she was bigger, smarter, stronger.
Well, she was only bigger for a short time. I passed her up. I bet in, she's smaller stature, so I bet in, you know, eighth grade, I was probably bigger than her.
So we're talking about junior high or middle school.
Yeah.
So what happened in elementary? You went to the same elementary.
Yes, we did.
Was she a good student?
Yeah, she was a good student.
Did you hear about your sister Kathleen from the teachers? Didn't they say, why aren't you like your sister?
Maybe I was. No. I mean, we all competed, and I think, you know, it wasn't that dynamic where we were super aggressive towards each other. It was just a family-friendly competition. Sometimes
older kids, though, take advantage of younger. I was wondering if she ever took advantage of you.
I don't think so. I think it was probably me taking advantage of my younger brothers and sisters.
Well, you had to learn that from somebody.
I did, yes.
Okay, so in elementary school, what were your favorite sports or activities?
You know, I pretty much played all sports, but I really enjoyed track.
Elementary school.
In elementary school, yeah.
Track in elementary school.
Yeah, and we played football and baseball, but I mean, I always enjoyed the running, the long distance sort of events.
And which elementary school?
Franklin Elementary in Loomis.
Close,
yes.
Is it still open?
Franklin's still there, yes.
You ever go back?
I ride by it all the time. I've never been back to the campus, but it's still in the same place off Laird Road.
Did you have a favorite teacher back then in elementary school?
In elementary school, I'm probably not. In high school, I definitely.
We'll get to high school.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't remember there being a favorite?
I don't remember a favorite teacher that really.
Do you remember any of the teachers' names in elementary school?
Oh, wow. Now you're putting me on the spot.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I don't. Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering what one of those teachers might have predicted about you.
Yeah. I'm sure they're still around, so I'm sure we can find out. I'll look into that.
Will you look into that? Find one of the teachers and say, how did you think I would turn out?
Yeah.
Okay, so during that time you're in elementary school, and your father, what is he doing work-wise at the time?
He worked for the state as an accountant, and I mean, pretty much with 6 kids, he was going to sporting events, going to school functions. I mean, that's pretty much my mom and dad's life, and they still continue. I mean, they're super involved with the family and my kids and all the grandkids. So it's yeah, they've always been there for the kids.
Terrific.
Yeah.
So what was the sport that you excelled at in elementary school?
Track was good, and then probably back then we didn't play tackle football, but we had flag football, and I think I excelled in flag football.
What position did you play?
I always played a running back or receiver in elementary school, and then in high school I played running back.
Okay, so you were fast.
I was quick. I wouldn't be fast.
Quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was good at not getting hit.
That's the idea.
That is the idea.
Especially on offense.
Yeah. Especially my size. I'm not the biggest guy, so had to be make sure that I was safe. So
one of the players that I interviewed in my book, Bo's Warriors, Tom Darden. He was an All-American at Michigan and played 10 years for the Browns. He's one of their top 100 players. So he was a good
player.
Good player. So he said, he played as a defensive back. He said, I didn't want to carry the ball anymore. I wanted to do the hitting. I didn't want to be hit.
Yeah. You want to hit, not be hit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, it came to me as you were talking about your quickness, because I've heard that before. Okay. Did you remember a coach in elementary school?
Not so much in elementary school, more high school.
Okay. All right. So there's something about elementary school, the first 6 years of school, and we noticed that Dan has some gaps in his memory. Now, if this was a different kind of program, we'd go into and find out about
what happened to me.
why those gaps and why those memory lapses. So, we'll just go beyond that. So your parents saw you play football, flag football in elementary school, and what kind of track were you running in elementary school? They had track and field. I mean, starting probably 4th grade, I believe, if I remember correctly. And I ran the mid-distance. Which would be what?
400s, 800s, and mile.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was your best event of those?
I was always good at like the 800 and the mile.
So what was your mile time?
Mile time, I'm not sure in elementary school, but in high school I did do
We'll get to high school.
Okay, we'll get there.
Now, as everybody knows, Dan just can't wait to get to high school.
Or get the bikes.
We're gonna get to the bikes. Enough of the stuff about elementary school.
Yeah.
Okay, so you graduated with flying colors in elementary school. Franklin, go up to the 6th grade or 8th grade?
8th grade.
8th grade.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was one of those schools. Okay, and then high school was where?
Del Oro.
Del Oro.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, I know you have some favorites at Del Oro.
I do. Yeah.
Who are we going to start with?
Well, you know him, Mr. March, Steve March.
Steve March.
Yeah. He was one of my football coaches. And,
no kidding. Steve March. Oh my goodness. I didn't know that Steve was a football coach.
Yeah, a JV football coach. And he's a great coach and just somebody who's you know, I still keep in touch with Steve. You know, he comes in the bike shop.
He's a nice
He's a great guy, and he's somebody I look up to. I mean, you look at, you know, he's still athletic, still active. I mean, he still runs. I mean, he hiked the whole coast with his wife, and his wife's amazing too. And they're coming up. They're doing a 24-hour bicycle ride called the Agony Ride. That's coming up, and it's
Agony Ride.
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit about that.
It's a fundraiser for I believe Young Life, if I'm not mistaken, and basically what they do is you get sponsorships, and you're trying to complete so many miles in a given time, and in this case it's 24 hours, and I think they might have done 300 miles last year, and they're trying to match that or beat that.
Where will that be?
It's up out of Plumas County, I believe, and it's in, I think, a week or two in July. Yeah.
Okay. And is this a spectator sport?
I don't know about as much as a spectator sport, but you know, I have a lot of customers who come in, and a lot of customers are involved with it, and it's just a good fundraising opportunity, a good program that they have, and you know, it's just amazing. These people, you know, so some of them never ride bikes, but this is their one bike ride a year, and they go out there and ride for 24 hours.
Agony is a good term.
Agony is a good term. Yes.
Okay. So, how is the bike shop involved in this?
You know, we're not a sponsor by any means. I usually do some sort of sponsorship for Steve or for other clients.
Okay.
But you know, we just try to get them prepared for it with bikes and lights. And
so per number of miles you donate?
Yeah, exactly. Or just give them a flat fee.
Or a flat fee. Okay. Okay. Well, that's neat that you're giving back to.
I try.
Well, you are. You're doing.
Yeah, so
not trying. You're doing.
Yeah.
That'd be an example of it. So if somebody wanted to donate and where does the money go?
I believe it's Young Life,
which is what?
Is a you know, a group that supports troubled youth. And I think it's their biggest fundraiser. So I believe is the organization.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. Sounds good. And if somebody wanted to donate or contribute or in some way,
I'm sure you could do a Google search on Agony Ride and it would pull up the Agony Ride. Yeah. So, and I'm sure there's an opportunity to. I'm sure they would. You know, any sponsorship would be appreciated.
Agony Ride. Okay.
Sounds enjoyable, doesn't it?
Well. Plumas County, July.
Yeah.
Hey, tough.
Yeah, very tough.
Okay, so Steve March was your JV coach.
Yes.
And so it might not be fair to ask what he would say about you since you still have a relationship. But maybe that would have been how many years ago?
Oh, let's see, it's probably 88.
Okay, so 25, 30 years ago.
30 years ago.
So, too bad he's not here. We say, okay, 30 years to go back. What would you say about Dan, and how do you think Dan would turn out?
Oh, what would he say?
What might he say?
I mean, for my, I don't know. I was always a hard worker. I mean, for my size, I wasn't the fastest person on the team by any.
You're quick.
But I was quick. So, but I worked really hard. So I would guess that he would maybe acknowledge that.
The working hard.
The working effort. I was always, you know, putting 110%. I mean, it was, you know, I was passionate about the sport at the time, and I definitely, you know, gave it my all. So
you're gonna like Bo's Warriors.
Yeah.
You're gonna really
I'll read the book.
You're gonna really like that one. Okay, so your dad. Would you describe your dad as being a hard worker or giving all?
Yeah, and he definitely was passionate about sports,
especially football.
Especially football and baseball. I mean, he was and basketball. I mean, he was, you know, a pitcher in baseball, the quarterback in football, and the point guard, top scorer, I think, in basketball. So for a small school, he was a very good athlete.
Quite the guy.
Yeah, he was.
So.
And is.
Still. Were you competing against him in any ways?
No, I mean we always went out and threw the football around or played basketball.
And what was
and as I got bigger,
what was he like guarding you when you had the ball?
I think he probably took it a little easy on us, but as we grew, I mean, I remember there was some good games between us as we got older.
Physical contact?
A little bit, yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Maybe. Jeez, come on, Dan.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you another example of Tom Darden again. So, Tom said that, yeah, we used to play basketball against the coaches, and some of the coaches were relatively young, like Gary Moeller was maybe 10 years older than Tom at the time he was coaching. And he said, yeah, those coaches were just very physical with us. They didn't, but they were modeling. They were modeling physicalness is okay, aggressiveness is okay.
Yeah, it has a place.
Yeah, it does. I mean, so you would expect some competition between you and your dad, and trying to do well against your dad since he was a good player, and he'd recognize how good you were.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So at this point, you're not into bikes yet, are you?
I always rode bikes. I mean, that's how we got around when I was young.
Single speed?
BMX bikes back in the day, mainly.
See, I grew up with a Schwinn, single speed.
In my generation, it was all BMX bikes, and I mean, we'd ride our bikes down to the BMX store and pick out the parts we wanted, and I mean, it was fun, but that was our freedom, when we were in elementary school. That's how we got to the buddy's house. That's how we got around to, where we grew up. It was. Looking back, it was freedom. That was our option.
It was your first driver's license.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, I always rode bikes, but I got into other sports, and during high school, I had a bike, but I would use it occasionally, but not like I do now. So.
Okay. All right. So, is there another teacher at Del Oro that you admired and?
Yeah, there were some really good teachers. In my varsity year, I had Coach Fletcher and Coach Christensen, and Mr. Fletcher lives locally here. I still see him. And there were some upperclassmen that I look up to, like Jeff Tooker. He's an administrator now in the district, but there was a lot of good teachers at that time. And a lot of them are even customers of mine now, so we've stayed in touch and we ride bikes together, and it's a neat transition. So
still part of the Del Oro family?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
The question is, where will I have my kids go to school? And I'm part of the community up here now, so my kids will be Placer kids. So.
Oh, Placer kids. So you're going to break the tradition?
I'm probably going to break the tradition. A lot of my friends don't like that, but
really,
yeah.
What kind of feedback are you getting?
They just are. They're pretty strong, steadfast Del Oro people. So it's going to be interesting to see. It'll be fun, and hopefully our kids will get to compete against each other in sports and other activities. So could be a good time.
And your wife's name?
Dawn.
And what does she say about this Del Oro?
She didn't grow up in this area. She doesn't know the dynamics between Del Oro and Placer.
Oh, she doesn't.
No,
she doesn't.
But
okay.
I think she's indifferent at this point.
Really, really. Okay, so you're pleased with the Placer school?
Oh, I think it's great, and I think you should always support. If you live in a community, I think you should support that community. And one way to support the community is to support the local schools, and I think it's important. I'm part of the community. I have a business downtown. I live in town. I think my kids should attend the school that they live in.
Well, I could see you breaking the tradition, your tradition of that you're here.
Yeah.
And even though Del Oro is so close,
it is close.
You're still here?
Yeah.
And my guess is that the Del Oro teachers, administrators, and customers would probably understand.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, and I mean it's a fun talking point too between us. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I'm excited about it, and I have a few years out before they're here. But I hope they'll have fun, and I heard good things about Placer, so it should be good.
Okay. All right. So All right, so we're in senior high school, and you're still doing football and track? Still doing track?
Yep. Track, I pretty much strictly football at that point. I was doing some cross country and track, my JV year, but in my senior year it was mainly football.
Okay. So. Okay. As a running back?
As a running back. Uh-huh.
Okay. A scat back probably, because.
Yeah, halfback. Yeah, not a fullback.
You probably didn't lose any weight since then, or?
I actually weighed more then than I do now, by about 20 pounds.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So what did you weigh in high school as a senior?
About 175, 180. Yeah.
So you were a big kid.
Yeah, well, that's what you do. You have to lift weights and, do whatever you can to.
And what happened?
I got into bike riding, and it's hard to push the weight up the hill.
Okay, so notice that for anybody who's thinking about their body and weight and so forth, here's a testimonial from Dan that he weighed maybe 175 in high school, and now look at him. And you'll see him demonstrate in a bit, so you'll notice that he lost all his weight, and you're attributing it to
cycling.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a different body type too, as far as cycling goes. The lighter you are, the easier it is to move up the hill. You still need some sort of muscle mass, but
so it's an advantage.
It's an advantage. So yeah, a 5 to 10 pound difference makes a big difference on the bike when you're climbing. So
the same thing when you're running.
Exactly. Yes, you should know.
Okay, so then did you go to college?
For a short time. So I basically what happened in high school, and the reason I got into cycling was I had a knee injury playing football. And,
which knee?
My right knee.
What kind of injury?
I had an ACL separation. So
serious.
Yeah, so it was pretty serious. I had to have that ACL replaced, and part of my rehab was to get on a bike and start riding bikes. And like I said, I always had a bike, but it was kind of in the back of my mind riding bikes, and for something just clicked, and I started riding all the time, and in the probably early 90s I started competing on the mountain bike.
Okay, so let's go back. So you started riding before the early 90s.
Yeah. So late 80s is when I started riding again, and it really took off, and I just fell in love with the sport, and especially the mountain bike side. That's what I started with.
So you started with the mountain bike.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then was in college and I went to Sierra College for 3 years and was riding bikes through that time.
Did you get there on riding a bike?
No, I drove. But I was, yeah. I mean, I'd occasionally ride, but I mean, majority of my riding was recreation or training. So at that point.
Okay. So let's start with recreation. So, so I have one speed experience on a Schwinn. So if I came to you and said, Dan, I'd like to consider getting on a bike, would it be either one of these bikes?
It could be. It just depends what you're looking to do. If you want to stay in the outdoors, stay on the trails, which I know you're a trail runner, a mountain bike might be that perfect opportunity for you to stay on those trails and enjoy the same trails you run now, but just in a different experience. But if a lot of people are more timid on the mountain bike, then the road is an option, and the road's easy. I mean, I do both sports. I mean, they're both bikes, but they're different. They have different aspects. The mountain's definitely more technical. It takes a little bit more physical strength probably for the mountain, where the road bike can be a very good training tool, very smooth, fast, but maybe not as technical. So the main thing you would look for on the road is making sure that you're safe around cars and whatnot.
Okay. So let's say that I'm looking for starting with the road bike, and I haven't had any experience shifting, braking, dealing with other than the one speed. So how would you take like a newcomer? What would you
get you started?
Yeah, how would you start?
Generally, what we focus on is we do like almost like a little interview process. I'm going to talk with you for a while to see what your experience is.
Let's do that.
Okay, the first thing I'd introduce you, Frank. So what are you looking to get out of the bike? Are you looking for exercise? You're looking for, maybe you have a goal like a century ride, or you want to compete, and I kind of judge that, and then we try to match the bike.
Let me answer, and then we'll just
okay.
play with this. And let's start with, I'd like to exercise.
Okay. So for exercise, if you're looking for strictly exercise and maybe not so much competition, I might put you on a bike that's set up a little bit more comfortable, so you could go out and exercise and still feel comfortable.
How do you do that? What do you do?
Oh, the bikes come in, the bike industry's changed. We see a lot of bikes now that are more what we consider endurance geometry, with a little bit taller head tube, a little bit longer wheelbase, and what that does to the bike, it puts you in a little bit more upright position.
Okay.
So it's more comfortable on the body. It also makes that longer wheelbase, makes the bike handle a little bit more stable. So not as quick, but more stable through the turns and through the handling. Okay. So they really have differentiated the bikes between racing, exercise, comfort, and there's a whole range of bikes now. And so my interview process with you would be to try to whittle that down to find the perfect bike for you.
Okay, so there's a lot of variety then.
There is, and then I would take you over to a stand and put you in the stand, and we would adjust the saddle height. I'd walk through how to shift, and we'd give you basically a tutorial in the bike shop before I sent you out on the road.
Could you be more specific about the tutorial?
Yeah, the shifters are unique nowadays, so gone are the down tube shifters of old. Everything's integrated into the brake levers here, so like on this bike.
Let's show our audience, yeah.
Yeah, so this is actually where you shift and brake. Everything's integrated into the lever. So you want to make sure this is where you're going to spend a lot of your time, so we need to make sure that you're comfortable in this position and you can be in this position. So in this case, this shifter right here controls the rear, this controls the front. I'd walk you through that. I'd show you how the bike shifted. Each lever here is a paddle, and it shifts the bike accordingly. Oh. So I'd walk you through that and make sure that
you're moving it like in a...
Yep, the whole lever moves, so everything's integrated. So nowadays you could shift brake, you could stand and shift, so it's a lot easier, and everything's more in tune with your body and your style. Huh. So I would walk you through that, and I would really...
How difficult is it to learn to stand?
Well, like we always say, you never forget to pedal, even your 1-speed. You could get on this bike and pedal it, so you don't forget that motion. Okay. It just the other stuff just takes a little practice and time. The gears can be a challenging point for some newer riders, but the gear ranges that they have now are much easier to control.
Which means what?
It's easier to go uphill and faster to go downhill. So especially where we live in the foothills, everything's up and down, and the bikes are geared completely different than they used to be. So there's a wide range of gears, and it makes it a little bit more enjoyable in the foothills here.
So like for exercise, how many gears would that bike have?
This bike has 22 gears.
That seems to be a lot.
It has 11 in back and 2 in front. And you use those in combination depending on the hills and the terrain.
So the back is with the left?
Yep.
And the front's the right?
No, I'm sorry. The right is going to be the back.
Okay.
Back brake, back shifter, and then the front is the 2 gears on the front.
So could you explain to us and to me and to the audience why so many gears in the back and only 2 in the front?
Well, it's all about gear range. So the front rings are either you have a big ring and a small ring. The big ring's for your speed. The small ring on the front is going to be for more your climbing gears and your hillier terrain. And then the back gives you just a nice range. So the gears are all in like small incremental changes. So if you feel like you just want to go a little bit faster, you have a nice little incremental change on the back, so you could gain that speed, or vice versa. If you're coming to a hill, you could have a small incremental change.
There's really no clutch then, is there?
No, it indents. So each shift is one indentation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that seems simple.
It's very simple. Compared to the old bikes where you had a down tube shifter and you kind of had to almost guess what gear you were in, these are all integrated and all indexed.
So that seems pretty neat.
It's very nice. Okay. And they even now have bikes that have electronic shifting. So we have bikes that
What is that?
it's just a servo button, and the derailleur moves automatically, and it's all battery operated.
What do you mean it moves automatically?
Well, you shift, and instead of pulling a cable, like the traditional way you would shift a bike, it's electronic. So there's a little motor in the derailleurs that cause it that shift up and down. So that's the latest, greatest.
So that's even easier.
It's easier, and it's just it takes out some of the mechanical portion of the bike, where the main thing that happens to a bike that we have issues with is usually a cable drag. So somewhere the shifting's being degraded by cable drag.
Okay.
And it kind of takes the cables out of it because it's electronic now.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if I said to you, well, okay, I'm thinking of exercise, but probably like to get into the competitiveness, would I still start on the same bike?
I would probably show you maybe a little bit different bike.
Different how?
Different as far as geometry. So if you did say, hey, I might want to compete, a bike that you want a bike that's going to be fast and can handle quick.
Okay.
And there's bikes that have a little bit tighter angles, we call them, so a little bit steeper head angle, a little bit steeper seat, where the wheelbase, it shortens the wheelbase and it really makes it a quick, fun bike. And that's kind of the differentiation between an endurance bike and a race bike is kind of the angles.
The angles.
Yeah, and then we also look at stiffness. So a bike like this we would consider more of a race bike. Super stiff bottom bracket, so everything you put into the bike, it accelerates forward, but it might not be as compliant as one of the endurance bikes.
What do you mean put in?
So they get, like in a bike like this, they make the bottom bracket area, this portion here where the cranks are mounted, they make that as stiff and large as possible. So every time you step on the crank, the bike just wants to move forward. So it's all about efficiency and forward momentum. Now on an endurance bike, we might see some different materials.
Would that be a long-term riding?
Yeah, like an endurance bike, or a little bit, I don't want to say comfort, because we don't want to classify somebody as wanting to be super comfortable. We want them to be, we call it compliant, might be.
So endurance would be like if you wanted to do a century?
A century.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, and then on those bikes we tend to see maybe some different tube shapes where the bike's a little bit more comfortable on longer rides. Sometimes a race bike can be good for a short distance, but on a longer ride it might beat you up because it's so stiff. And that might be the downside to a race bike.
What about the seat and seat size? Isn't that a potential problem for people?
Everybody is built differently, so comfort here is critical. There's three positions on the bike we kind of really want to focus on. That's your hands, your butt, and your feet. Those are your three contact points.
Yes.
So this is a very big issue with a lot of people. The saddle, if you're fitted properly on a saddle, it's there for support, just like a horse saddle, So and they all.
When's the last time you were on a horse saddle?
I have 3 horse saddles in my garage. And she says she needs one for every.
That's her. That's right.
So, but as far as saddles go, they do come in different widths. They come in different densities. But a saddle, if you're fit properly, should be there for just support. And then you wear padded chamois, where you actually have a short that has a chamois in it that offers more padding. But a saddle like this, even though it looks kind of narrow and firm,
yeah.
It could actually work really well for the right body type. So.
Okay. So does a customer try out different saddles then?
Yeah, oftentimes, we'll have somebody come in. We actually have a device that will actually measure your sit bone width. So it gives me a reference point on what width saddle we should use. And then it's also just, once again, the interview process. If somebody wants to be really upright, I might need to put a different saddle on because a lot of the pressure is going to be on the saddle. Where if somebody wants to be in a more aggressive position, maybe I have to get a saddle that has more of a cutout in the front to relieve pressure on the front.
Well, I know that and this may not apply at all, but when you go to buy a new mattress, you lay on that mattress for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And you can't really tell.
You can't tell. Yeah, so we do a lot of what we'd say saddle trials, saddle demos.
Because you really have to be on that saddle.
You have to give it a while, and also saddles sometimes need to break in, so you might, a lot of saddles, might take a month or so to really get the saddle to settle in, just like your horse saddle, right?
Is that what your wife tells you?
I don't know. That's why she keeps buying saddles.
No. There's other reasons for that. Okay, so now I've heard, and you correct me if I'm not accurate, that what if you have sciatica issues and the sitting can aggravate the sciatic issues?
A lot of that is probably due to fit, so probably your position on the bike.
I'm not talking about just being bike and sciatica, just if someone has sciatica issues, not even riding a bike, and then goes to a bike, I'm wondering if that's going to exacerbate the... have you encountered that or not?
I mean, so a lot of cyclists get the sciatic nerve damage, but that's generally caused from poor bicycle fit. Than maybe the saddle itself. So I mean, but the saddle's a big part of having the correct bicycle fit.
Key is fit, isn't it?
Fit is key, because I mean, at the end of the day, if you came in and I put you on this bike and I didn't fit you and I didn't make sure you were kind of tailored to the bike, you might not ride it. You probably won't enjoy it.
Right.
So if I spend the time with you and make sure that you're fitted properly on the bike, you'll enjoy it a lot more.
So, what if a customer needs hand holding? Do you work with those?
Of course.
So, if you're considering a bike, Dan is the one to see.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Okay, so that's the road bike. Is there anything else about the road bike that would help people you haven't addressed? What about if you get a flat tire? What's the issue?
Flats do happen, and a lot of newer riders, that's their biggest concern, is they're going to be out there, they're going to get a flat.
Then what?
Well, you're going to learn to change a flat out on the road, and that's why we do clinics and all these. This is a tube tire. I could take this off without any tools. I could remove the tube and reinstall it. And
without a tool?
Without any tools, we could do that. So I could teach you to do it too. So, and that's what we offer. We also offer classes. We offer clinics where you could come in and we'll show you how to change a flat. And that's something that a lot of our newer riders, that's what they ask for. And we.
So do you carry an extra tube with you, or what?
Yeah, we always carry. You have your basic, what we consider a survival kit. You have a tube, a pump. You might have a little multi-tool to fix any issues there, but flats definitely happen, especially on our roads out here. So.
Okay, what about taking off that rear wheel? You got this. Isn't that more complicated?
It's as easy as the front.
Come on.
You just need to know the tricks on how to do it.
The tricks.
Yeah, like what gear to be in. The gear selection when you're removing the rear wheel is critical.
Oh.
Yeah, so you put the derailleur in the most relaxed position in the smallest cog. That moves the derailleur over, keeps the chain out of harm's way as you drop the wheel out. But it's just as easy. Just like I was saying, you could do it. You could remove either wheel without any tools, and it's as easy as the front wheel.
So you could probably do it blindfolded.
There's actually, yeah. I mean, I've changed a lot of flat tires in my day. Yeah.
So you're experienced.
Yeah.
So it'd be really important to have you come along on an initial ride.
Yeah. When we go on a ride, if somebody gets a flat, it's usually one of the shop guys who are changing the flat, just so we can get back on the road quick.
Okay, so it doesn't take long for you to change a tire?
No, I would say we could probably, I mean, if this was flat, we could, 2-3 minutes, we could be back on the road.
Really? That seems...
I'll do a demonstration sometime for you. I'll come back and do a demonstration.
That would be really neat to do it blindfolded.
Blindfolded? Yeah, well, I could try that. I could probably do it blindfolded.
I bet you probably could, right? Right. Yeah. Okay, so that's the street bike. So any other potential hazards or difficulties that people talk about or challenges with their street bike? What, cars and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, the cars are always a concern. There's some really good road riding around here. I mean, I think as far as where we live geographically, I mean, it's some of the best in the world, in my opinion. I mean, I've ridden a lot of different places, and just the backcountry roads, the rolling hills, just the scenery, everything about where we live is great road riding.
So where would you go, or recommend like a newcomer? What?
Placer County came out with a really nice map that has suggested routes. They're kind of highlighted, and it's a free map you can find at our shop and all the other shops in town. And it's a really good reference point. But we spend a lot of time, in the Loomis Basin area and West Auburn. The other day we rode up to Colfax and back. I mean, those are all nice frontage roads that are, and even though there might not be a lot of bike lanes, there's not a lot of traffic, and as long as you...
That's the key, isn't it?
That is the key. And there's more cyclists now, so there's certain roads that I think local residents just know there's going to be bikes on the road. There's certain roads that you go out on a Saturday or Sunday, you'll see 100 riders going up and down this road, and those are the safe roads to be on, personally.
The canyon?
The canyon's changed over the day. It's definitely busier than it used to be. We used to ride the canyon a lot. I don't ride it as much as I used to. So.
Just too much traffic.
Yeah, descending down the canyon's fine. It's climbing up like towards Cool that can be challenging.
Because of traffic?
Just the amount of traffic, and just the bike lanes in general.
There's not a whole lot of lanes.
There's not a lot of road left there. Yeah. And people drive, they drive those roads pretty fast, and they drive them daily.
So you wouldn't recommend that for a newcomer to go up the canyon?
Maybe certain times of the day, but I generally will send them to other areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
What makes your shop? There's 5 other shops?
There is currently 5 shops in town.
So why would somebody come to your shop? What can you offer, or what do you offer? If you do?
I think all the other shops are good. I mean, what we really try to focus on is customer service. I have an older staff, so a lot of my employees have been working on bikes and riding bikes longer than I have. So, I mean, I have a staff, that probably combined experience is probably close to 100 years. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd just say customer service, professionalism, and we try to be very unassuming. So I want people to feel comfortable coming in my shop and with no attitude. We want to get them on the bikes, and my ultimate goal is to make Auburn a cycling destination, and getting more people on the road is going to accomplish that. So.
And what are you doing to facilitate that?
Promoting events, promoting rides, promoting safety. We're trying to, get other bike infrastructure in town. Like the bike park that's been talked about a lot recently. All that stuff just helps with the cycling awareness and cycling community. And it's a growing community. It's a great place we live. I think overall there's a huge cycling community in town here, and I think once people realize that, they'll come from everywhere to come and ride bikes here.
So how are you promoting this? What are you doing specifically?
We sponsor a couple events. We just had our weekend where we had 2 races back to back. We had a Loomis race, and then we had a downtown circuit race here.
So probably bike riders know about this, but how would the public?
The public, we try to do as much advertising as possible through the newspapers and online. And
would they go to your website?
They go to our website, and there's other avenues to learn, about local roads. There's a great club called the Sierra Foothill Cycling Club that we helped get started a few years back, and they're up to 300 members, and that's a good club to get newbies involved with.
Would you recommend something like that?
Oh, of course, it's a great club.
Joining a club?
Yeah, and it introduces you to other cyclists. The way I look at it, you're always safer when you're in a group. That group mentality, you see a lot of cyclists out there in packs and groups, and you are safer. You're definitely more noticed when you're in that pack environment.
Well, yeah, you have to be seen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the main goal.
All right, so you would recommend joining a...
Yeah, and it's social too. It's a fun, social atmosphere. Like any sport, there's always competition involved, but it's something you could gauge your progress too as you compete.
Okay. So let's say I said to you, well, Dan, I like the trails, so I think I would like to start riding the trails. But once again, all I've done is one speed.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely going to look more towards a mountain bike. There are some bikes that kind of blur the lines, which we consider hybrids, but it's always, you know, and they're good bikes. If you had to have one bike, a hybrid might be your option if you want to do some road and some dirt. But if you were strictly looking dirt, I'd push you towards a mountain bike. I would kind of, once again, do the interview process. Are you looking for, do you want to do some big log jumps? You want to do some rocky terrain? Or are you looking more for the exercise, the endurance going uphill?
So let's say I'm a little bit younger and
yep.
I want to do the log jumps.
Yes. Yeah. So in that case, I mean, if you're going to be more aggressive on the bike, we might look for something like this bike here has front and rear suspension. So you have, you know, 5.5 inches plus travel on the front and the same on the back. So this bike is really designed to ride aggressive off-road. The beauty of this bike too is it's relatively lightweight for what it is. I mean, this technology has really come down.
This looks heavier than the street bike.
It's quite a bit heavier. It's probably a good close to 10 pounds heavier.
Okay.
Yeah, but the person who's going to be riding this bike is going to need that extra 10 pounds of durability built into the bike. We have hydraulic disc brakes. We have a neat little feature called a gravity dropper. So this actually has a seat post that can drop down. So if you get in a real technical, aggressive terrain, you could drop this down and get back behind the bike, and your weight's centered more towards the back on real steep technical stuff.
That's for those that know what they're doing?
Yeah, but maybe you. So, and as you get back to the climbing portion, you pop the seat back up to the proper saddle height.
Ah, okay.
So this is, you know, this bike's really designed for more aggressive off-road use. So if you were coming in saying that's what you were looking for, we would show you options that fit this. If you're coming in saying you want to just get some exercise, more endurance, we might be able to look at a hardtail.
What's that?
A hardtail is no rear suspension, just with the front suspension. Oh. And those are generally lighter. They can be a little bit rougher on the terrain, but they're generally more efficient when you climb too. So, and often cost a little bit less. So.
All right. So, tell us the differences between the two bikes. Weight is one. The construction is. Yeah,
a road bike's all about efficiency. So everything's, you know, it's all about rolling resistance. This bike especially is all about cheating the wind. So this is all about going as fast as you can through the wind.
No friction.
No friction.
Reducing
reduced. I mean, 85% of the drag is the rider. So they're trying to make the bike as minimal as possible.
Okay.
Where this bike's more about maybe a little bit different position, more relaxed position. You're going to be taking stuff at a slower speed, more technical. So you need to be able to handle the bike different, and that's where a mountain bike comes in.
Okay, so the handling is tricky.
Yeah, you know, if you took something like this, it'd be too fast to control off-road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the angles are steeper. There's no suspension, obviously. This bike, you're in a little bit more upright position. It puts you in a more of a mountain bike position. More technical terrain. The suspension's going to soak up all the rocks and the rough stuff. So,
okay,
but definitely technology in both bikes has gone, you know, leaps and bounds in the last 10 to 20 years.
Okay. And the hybrid is, how would that
kind of blurs the line in between the two. You know, a hybrid works really well for a lot of people. Maybe somebody who wants to do some light gravel road but still wants to ride the road occasionally. It could be the one bike that can do both, but not the best of both worlds, which we're looking at here.
Okay. Now, I'm closer to this bike and I see all these gears.
Yep.
So in changing a flat tire, could you do this one blindfolded too?
I could do this one blindfolded too. A little bit different. You know, you have a disc brake to worry about. So you just need to make sure the alignment like in reinstalling the wheels, critical. You know, but in essence, the same thing as far as relaxing the derailleur into its easiest position. There are some other tricks of the trade, getting the wheels off here.
You need a tool for this?
This one I could probably do with no tools either.
Boy, too bad if we started the program with Dan.
If you didn't talk about my elementary years, I could have we could have.
I wanted to get your background, and so now, unfortunately, we're running out of time, and I know that your oldest boy,
yep.
and he's following your footsteps.
We'll see. Yeah, I've introduced him to the sport. He enjoys riding, but we've been fortunate that I have a full suspension mountain bike tandem that we've been competing on, and actually we just raced last night for a little local series that they have.
And what's his name again?
Devin.
Devin. Okay.
Yeah. And he's 10 years old, and it's been fun. It's something that I've had an opportunity to ride with him when he's on his little bike, but we can't go as fast, and when we're on the tandem together, we get to go as fast as we want.
Is he in the front?
Someday he will be. Right now I'm in front.
Is that the power? The power?
He's my power. He's the stoker. I'm the captain. So in a tandem, you have a captain who's the steerer, and the stoker is the person behind pedaling. So
Is this child labor?
Yeah, it helps me out. Yeah. No, but it's been a neat experience. You know, it's something I get to share my passion, and it's just really neat being on the bike together and controlling the bike together and knowing what the bike can do, and he's getting an idea like how fast the bike can go and how the bike handles, and it's a lot of fun.
So, are you able to have conversations while you're riding?
Yeah. We're always talking. We're always communicating, which is also good.
What do you talk about, you and Devin?
Well, you know, oftentimes we're talking about the terrain coming up because we have to talk about what's coming up. If I'm going to go through a big dip or hit a bump,
so he's
pretty much blind behind me.
This is a mountain bike.
This is mountain bike. Yeah.
Tandem mountain bike.
Tandem mountain bike, yeah.
So he's got to trust you.
He needs to trust me, you know, and he has a, you know, he'll look around me. I can feel him when he turns and looks around me.
That'll affect the balance, won't it?
It does affect the balance. Yeah. So a lot of times he just needs to trust me, but I need to let him know if we're going to hit a bump, he better, you know, kind of loosen up so he doesn't get bucked off that bike. So.
Could he get bucked off and you not?
No. He's pretty much clipped in like me. So he has shoes and pedals that clips into the bike.
So if he goes off, you go off.
Yeah, we've only crashed a few times. So.
So what does Dawn say about this?
Oh, she's a cyclist herself, and she's as competitive, or probably more competitive than I am, and you know, I think. She's fully for it. She refuses to get on the back of the tandem, but maybe someday I'll get her on the back of the tandem. So
good luck.
Yeah.
All right. So she's entered Tebbs.
She is, I believe, going to try Tebbs this year. Yeah.
That means she's entered.
She has one more ride to qualify for her.
Oh.
Yeah. So she has one more 50-miler, and then she has aspirations to do Tebbs.
And that's going to be the one up in. Nevada City
off Pioneer Trail.
Bloomfield Boogie. Isn't that Bloomfield?
Yeah, I'm not sure the name of this one,
okay.
But yeah.
There was a ride and tie up there that was called the Bloomfield Boogie.
Yeah.
And okay, nice. Might be the similar trail.
Yeah, but that's you know, one of her passions right now is horse riding and endurance riding. So.
Is she able to get you on the horse?
She hasn't yet.
Okay. Unfortunately, we have to close it down, and competitor Dan and competitor Dawn. Maybe Dawn should have been on the program to talk.
We'll have her come in and
talk about her competitiveness and why she's unable to get you on the horse.
Yeah, we have to talk to her about that one.
Okay, well that's a plan. That's a plan, because it'd be neat to get her on, and probably Devin.
Yeah, Devin's great. He's a very fun boy.
To talk with him about his experience with his dad. Well, thank you for joining us in today's show, and I hope you have a good sense about Dan and Victory Velo Bike Shop, and appreciate you coming in, Dan, and sharing your knowledge. And they gave me a sign that I think the program is finished.
Thank you.